Hello. If you're watching this, it can only mean that you've enrolled in an online course at Collin College. My name is Dr. Ryan Pettengill, and I'll be your instructor for History 1301. What I'm going to be going through here today is basically the syllabus. I'd like to get you up and running when it comes to the guidelines, expectations, and requirements for this class. So if you haven't done so, what I'd like you to do is log into Canvas, click on our class, and then download yourself a copy of the syllabus. You can do so by clicking on Concourse Syllabus in the top left corner of the page. Again, put me on pause if you need to. Come back and we're going to go through the course guidelines and requirements. In a class like this, in a semester like this, communication is going to be essential. The best, fastest, most effective way to get a hold of me is through email, and you see that email address listed at the top of the syllabus there. I check that regularly, and if you get me a message Monday through Thursday before 3 p.m., there's a very good chance that I'll respond on the same day. If it's after 3 or if it's on the weekend, it will be a little bit more delayed, but I do take a lot of pride in getting back to students in a timely fashion, so that's the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to talk to me directly, there is a phone number that is listed on the syllabus as well. Call. If you don't get a hold of me, leave me a voicemail, and what I'll do is I will return your call, and don't be surprised if I return it via email. It's just a little bit faster for me. If you could be so kind as to let me know what your section is, or at least if it's a History 1301 or 1302, that would move things in the right direction when it comes to a timely response. As I mentioned, this is History 1301, so this is the first half of the U.S. History Survey. I can't really be super specific in terms of our starting point. I like to think of our starting point as the period in American history before Europeans started showing up in the Western Hemisphere. Now, I can be a lot more specific when it comes to when we will end. The year in which we will end this course is going to be 1877. And you're going to find out pretty quickly, I'm not much of a dates guy, memorize these dates. That's not really my approach to history. But 1877 is really an exception to that rule. And you're going to understand why 1877 is such a consequential year, assuming that you stick with me. Okay? But along the way, we're going to talk about all the usual suspects. We'll talk about George Washington and his creation of the office of the presidency. We'll talk about Abraham Lincoln bringing the country back together again through the Civil War. But we're also going to talk about some individuals that you probably haven't heard of before. People like Anne Hutchinson. You may not have known who Anne Hutchinson is, but believe me, she's really consequential when it comes to American history, because she's going to introduce, or in ways introduce, the concept of equality in American life. This will make a lot more sense when we get to the period involving the colonization of what is now called New England. But when the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony comes to her and says, what you're doing is immoral and you need to cut it out right away, she says, all souls are created equal, mine, yours, everybody's. And obviously that's going to grow legs, and it's really going to become an issue in American history. Okay? You may have heard of Frederick Douglass, but you probably aren't super familiar with what his contributions to American history are. Douglass is arguably the greatest of the abolitionists of the 19th century. He's going to write very famous books. He's actually going to get an offer from places like Oxford University to come be their endowed chair, but he's going to stick with the movement. And what he's going to ultimately argue is that slavery is an institution that victimizes everybody in American life, including even the slave owners. So I hope taking an approach like this not only makes this class more enjoyable, and you do appreciate it at the end of the semester, but I'm also hopeful that it gives you a good, solid roadmap in terms of how we got to right now. I'm very cause and effect oriented when it comes to how I approach the class. Nothing happens out of thin air. History very much is cause and effect in its orientation. I'm also hopeful that we develop some good academic skills for you, some good academic habits over the course of the next few weeks. There are skills and ideas that we are going to fine-tune, hone, and develop over the course of this semester. And these skills are not only going to lend themselves to you when you get to the junior or senior level of your college career, they're skills that the professional job market is seeking as we speak. I don't care if you're going into criminal justice or you want to be a nurse. The day will come when your superior comes to you and says, listen, I need you to analyze all this information from a variety of different sources, and I need you to have it in 2-3 pages at most, and it needs to be in language that's digestible by other people. It can't be in super technical mumbo jumbo. Those are skills that we're developing in this class, and the study of history does lend itself to the development of those kind of skills. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you do the things that I ask you to do, and you focus on the issues that I ask you to focus on, not only will this be a pleasant experience for you, I'm also hopeful that it'll be a real shot in the arm for your overall grade point average, okay? How we get there is what I'm going to talk about next. Now, the first thing I would like to point out are the reading requirements that you're going to need to have over the course of the next few weeks. The first, you don't need to actually go out there and buy. Now, you can purchase the American YAWP, Y-A-W-P, YAWP. You can purchase it probably at our bookstore. That's probably the easiest place that you can find it. But you don't have to. It is available. It is free online. And as a matter of fact, I've linked it in various places in Canvas. If you go to the modules button of Canvas right now, you can see where I have linked the American YAWP in the learning management system that we're using, that you're using right now. So you've got that, you've got the resources for that right now. The next book that you need, and you need it right away, and once again you have it right now in Canvas, that would be Frederick Douglass's book, My Bondage and My Freedom. Okay? Now once again, you can buy it from our bookstore. You can go to any half-price books, any Barnes & Noble. Probably you can buy it for very, very cheap. It's a very commonly read, very widely read book. But if you don't want to spend any money on it, you don't have to. You've got it right now. The last book that you're going to need is a book by Paul E. Johnson called Sam Patch, the Famous Jumper. Now, the bad news here is I can't give you this one for free. The good news is it's pretty cheap. If you're paying more than $20, you're probably paying a little bit too much for it. Long story short, once upon a time, I needed one. I lost the old one that I had. I went to a half-price books, and I think I bought it for about $8. So it's widely available, and it's pretty cheap. You're going to want to pick one of those up sooner rather than later, okay? A lot of the syllabus I'm going to leave up to you to read on your own time when it comes to student learning outcomes, those sorts of things. What I would like to focus on right now, and it does need to be top priority when it comes to your focus for the next few weeks, would be the course outline. So continue to scroll down in the syllabus and get to course outline, course calendar, okay? As you can see, I've broken the semester down on a week-by-week basis. And if you're looking at this part of the syllabus, what you're going to see is not only a topic, what we're going to be talking about on any given occasion. What you're also going to see is what is due, what written assignments are due, when they're due by, what reading assignments that you have to take up on any given occasion, and what video lectures that you need to focus on for this particular week. Now, let me slow things down just momentarily. Those video lectures are really going to be important, and the primary reason is they're the building blocks of my exams. I'll talk about what you can expect on the exams here in a minute, but the best favor that you can do yourself for doing well on the exam is to watch those video lectures, okay? They've all been preloaded for you, so if you're looking at the syllabus right now and it tells you to, for example, watch the first 5, that's what you need to get done by the end of the week. Now, if you continue to scroll through, you'll see very specific dates for paper 1, specific dates for the midterm exam, specific dates for every assignment, right down to the quizzes that we're going to be completing over the course of this semester. If you have any questions about a due date or a reading assignment or a lecture or whatever, just please let me know. And once again, the easiest way to get a hold of me is through email. Now, the question that everybody ought to be asking themselves at this point is, how do I walk out of this class with the best grade I possibly can get, right, by putting the least amount of effort into the class? And I realize that probably sounded a bit odd, maybe even a little bit cynical, but listen, nobody would walk into a grocery store and say, how can I spend more for my bread and my milk, my meat and my potatoes? No, we don't do that. What we do is we look for ways that we can stretch that dollar, make it go just a little bit further. The good news here is that you can do this in this class, and I would assume pretty much any other class that you're taking and in your college career. There's ways of working smarter and not necessarily harder. That's what I'm trying to get across here. The best, most effective, easiest way to rack up a bunch of points is by participation. How you participate in this class is by completing the weekly discussion forums. Now, the discussion forums, you're going to have at least one due every week, and they're typically due on a Friday at 11:59 p.m. What these discussion forums are going to do is they're going to put forward an open-ended question, and they're going to point you to a part of the American YOP. Sometimes that's a chapter, so other times it's a specific document, but one way or another, that's why that textbook is so important. You're going to need it to complete these discussion forums. That's why I made it available online. Anyway, you're going to see 5 of these over the course of the semester. And if you complete them, again, I'm not looking for something that changes the way that I look at history for the next 15 years. I'm asking you to make an honest effort reading the document or documents that I'm asking you to read and writing a serious, well thought out answer. In the end, you should spend anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes on any one of these discussion forums. So it's not exactly heavy lifting, but if you complete them and you complete them on time, there's no reason that you can't rack up a bunch of points when it comes to this element of the class. The next easiest thing, best thing that you can do to rack up a bunch of points, complete the quizzes. Now, quizzes is maybe a bad way to describe these writing assignments. Low-risk writing assignments, that's really more what I mean. The quizzes are going to put forward a question for you, and usually, not always, but usually they will ask you to use a document, sometimes more than one document, to answer that question. So if you were to look at Quiz 2, for example, it's going to link up with a document entitled, "But What Warrant Do We Have to the Land?" It's written by the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and basically what he's trying to do is justify taking land away from the Native Americans. You're going to use that document to answer that central question that you see listed in Quiz 2. Okay? Quiz 1 is sort of the exception here. Quiz 1, for all intents and purposes, is going to be an opinion-based question. It's important for you to explain to me why you think what you think, but there's no one, right way that I'm expecting it to be answered. Okay? Just tell me why you think what you think. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The lifting is going to get progressively harder, heavier as we go forward. You're going to see 2 papers. Each of these papers are going to be worth 10 percentage points of your cumulative grade. Paper 1 and Paper 2 will count for a collective of 20 percentage points. Okay? Paper 1 is based on your reading and understanding of Frederick Douglass. That's why that book is so important. Paper 2 is based on your reading and understanding of Sam Patch. That's why that book is so important. But both papers are going to ask you to construct a 2 to 3 page response to a central question, and it's going to ask you to bring the books that I just referenced into the conversation, but also the American YOP, some of the documents that we're discussing in those readings, some of the issues, events, and individuals that we've been discussing in those video lectures. That's why it's important to pay attention to your video lectures. As we get closer to the due dates of those assignments, I will put out video resources, other resources that are designed to move your brain in the right direction when it comes to doing well on Paper 1 and Paper 2. Okay? So those are the papers. Lastly, you're going to see 1 midterm exam and you're going to see 1 final exam. Both the midterm as well as the final exam consist of a combination of multiple choice questions, a short written section where you answer these questions in 2 to 4 sentences, and 1 long answer essay question. Now, if you're curious as to where you can find preparation materials, click on Modules, and then scroll down to Exam Resources. If you click that drop-down button, what you're going to find is that I've uploaded not only some review guides for both exams, but also a conversation that once again will move your brain in the right direction when it comes to engaging the course content to do well on this assignment, on these exams, okay? And so collectively, the midterm exam is worth 25 percentage points, final exam 25 percentage points. So it's, both of those are weighty assignments. In any case, that is the class, those are the required assignments, and if you scroll down just a little bit further, you can see my grading scale. As you can see, there's a total of 100 points for the semester. People always ask me, so I'll answer it right now, do I grade on the curve? And the answer is no, not really. If I've got somebody with a 89.57924610.3, yes, of course I round that up. I round it up to an even 90, okay? But I need you to understand that close enough is not good enough when it comes to the grade that you're satisfied with. If at the end of the semester you're looking at a 74, please don't expect me to round that up to an A, right? If you ended up with a 74, my guess is there are certain things that you either left undone or you didn't do very well. Now, I'm telling you this not to threaten anybody or sound like I'm a real difficult person to get along with. I don't think that you'll see those things as, true, either one of those things. But the bottom line is, if you do what I ask you to do and you complete these assignments in a timely fashion, again, there's no reason to believe that you shouldn't walk out of this class with a grade that you're highly satisfied with. Now, a few other caveats when it comes to the assignments. I don't accept either late quizzes or late discussion forums. If you miss the due date, if life gets in the way, whatever the case is, unless you've got a really good excuse and you can really document it, please don't expect me to reopen it or to give you another chance at it. Now, I will accept late papers, and if you happen to be in a situation where you cannot take the exam in the specified date, I will allow you to make it up, but it's up to you to arrange a time where that might be made up, okay? Once again, there are some things that I'm going to ask you to read on your own to make sure that you are familiar with the guidelines and the requirements for the course. Pay very close attention to things like drop dates, because after those dates pass, there's very few options that I have when it comes to not seeing that end up on your final transcripts. And if this is even a conversation, it's usually not a very happy conversation. Anyway, that's the class in a nutshell, guys. And again, I wish you the best of luck this semester. I'm rooting hard for you. It's always satisfying to me when students walk out of my class with a grade that they're highly satisfied with. All that being said, it's been very nice getting to know you, meeting you. I'm happy to work with you. If there's anything I can do to clarify what's going on in this class, please don't hesitate to let me know.